creating just jobs for everyone is an important benchmark for my work as Labour Minister. That's because I firmly believe that just jobs give people dignity and self-esteem. All human beings deserve just jobs. A job that is appreciated also in financial terms.
JustJobs Network's mission since the beginning has been a daunting task to improve the quality and quantity of jobs worldwide to decrease poverty, promote equality, and sustain growth.
This annual event is not just another meeting. It is the capstone for our year. Our annual gatherings are an opportunity for us to bring together fresh, dynamic, and informed, innovative voices to push for solutions to address what I think is one of the most pressing challenges of our time: how to create more and better jobs worldwide.
I want to take the notion of competitiveness and basically essentially argue that we really don't want that to be our focus, that we really need to be thinking about something broader than competitiveness and think about the policies that we can put into place to enhance productivity.
If you give the advice to one country to practice to increase its competitiveness by wage moderation, what you're hoping is that there will be this competitiveness channel, namely that its lower wage costs will boost its exports. So asking some countries to practice wage moderation to regain competitiveness is not going to work unless you're at the same time asking the ECB to be very aggressive about quantitative easing, and you're asking these countries to live up to the commitments to carry out structural reforms, which also helps raise their output.
We expect at least some modest positive impact on investment, but we haven't found either very modest or little, in some cases no impact on investment at all. So if we put in a bit of the political framework of the wage moderation, so we do wage moderation with the expectation that it will boost the investment, for example, but we don't see that has really happened.
Job security is a safety net, of course. But the problem with the way in which India has conceptualized job security is that the entire cost of the safety net is borne by the employer. So it's like saying that I'm paying you a wage, but I'm also covering you for effectively an unemployment situation. I think that has created enormous pressures or enormous deterrence to employers from hiring people under this formal contract, and it's to me the single most important explanation of why we have less than 10% organized sector labor and more than 90% unorganized.
In some contexts, higher productivity growth is thought to reduce jobs and to lower wages. So I think we need to remember that productivity growth is the foundations for how an economy can produce more, but in the long run, and why do we care about that? Because if you produce more, you can make good on promises. Promises for the young that they will have a future, promises to the old that you will be able to pay their pensions, and also promises to those who have invested in your economy financially.
The question arises that, if trade is a vehicle for increasing formalization, how does that affect wages?
We are living in a world that is generally growing more open, in which the cost of moving goods and of moving information is diminishing, and the capacity to move it is growing. And that in turn means that the trade regimes that we have, and most other governments have as well, are relatively speaking becoming less powerful over time. TPP and more generally the Obama administration's trade program was trying to take all this into account. The world's economy is going to open. whether we continue with trade agreements or not, the internet will continue to spread, container fleet will continue to grow, all those sorts of things will continue to happen. Our hope is that through agreements we can both add opportunities for ourselves and our own workers, and also add some things to the agenda that will help deal with these larger questions of global workforce.
Most importantly is that these multinational corporations, up until now, only employ workers along assembly lines with meager incomes. So there is a big challenge for Vietnam to help these workers to move up the wage ladder. It's not clear yet about if TPP can help.
Minimum wages and collective bargaining are not mutually exclusive. Collective bargaining has to be part of the minimum wage regime in a certain country because it will add on, and it will also increase the wages for workers, in a sense that that minimum wages can only prove a basic wage floor as an absolute minimum.
Whether it's because collective bargaining rights are circumscribed or whether it's because collective bargaining institutions are weak, minimum wage has become, for many workers around the world, sort of the only instrument they have to demand higher compensation.
The attitude of the central government to, implementing of the minimum wages. Whether the central government have more emphasize importance of the policy or not.
Minimum wage policies really need to take into account other social protections, such as unemployment insurance and pensions, in order to have a better impact on poverty and inequality.
The path to higher wages, to fair remuneration, the path to investing and incentivizing higher productivity, the path to ensuring that people can provide for themselves and their families demands a lot more from us. And I'm very heartened, again, by the fact that we've got the IMF, the World Bank, the OECD, and we had the ILO this morning, all here. And I hope that some of the dialogue here will not only be conveyed to the G20 meetings taking place in this hotel and across the street, but also that these institutions will make the learnings from today part of their doctrine. But it's going to take more than multilateral institutions. It's going to take regional, national, and local organizations, all of which are represented here, to translate this consensus into action. For the JustJobs Network, we plan on continuing to do what I think we do best, which is offering analysis to deal together with the challenges that we face, including squaring higher wages and competitiveness.